Yesterday, California Democrats officially put Proposition 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, on the ballot for Californians in November. Thanks to Governor Newsom and California Democrats, we are one step closer to ensuring that the decision of who represents voters in Congress rests solely in the hands of voters and not Donald Trump. But let's rewind to how we got here in the first place. As you know, Texas Republicans pulled out all of the stops to illegally redraw their districts after Trump demanded that they carve out more seats for him. And when Texas House Democrats fought back by leaving the state in protest, Republicans forced elected lawmakers to sign permission slips in order to leave the state house, making State Representative Nicole Collier stay in the chamber overnight after she refused to sign it. By the end, Republicans weren't even hiding it anymore. Todd Hunter, the author of the bill for new maps in Texas, even said that the goal was, quote, to improve Republican political performance. Props for saying the quiet part out loud, I guess. But Democrats aren't letting this happen without a fight. Enter Governor Newsom and the California state legislature. By introducing this ballot measure and giving California voters a chance to respond, Democrats are taking the fight to Donald Trump. Republicans wanted a showdown, and now they've got one. Democrats across the country stand with Californians as they fight back against Donald Trump's attempt to rig congressional maps for his own political gain. I'm Hannah Moldavan, Deputy Communications Director for the Democrats and your host for today. It's Friday, August 22nd, and this is the Democrats' Daily Blueprint. While Democrats are fighting back against Trump's scheme to hold onto power, Republicans are flailing as they try to sell their big, beautiful bill to Americans across the country. JD Vacation has finally returned to his job after summering in the UK at a $10,000 a week home in England and a $28,000 a week villa in Scotland. But he was about as useful in his Atlanta area rally yesterday as he was when he was frolicking in the English countryside earlier this month. Why? Because Vance and this administration are trying to sell people on their horrible budget bill when they know for a fact that people are not buying it. It's obvious that this bill sucks. Here's Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff calling Vance out for parachuting to Georgia to try and lie to his constituents' faces.
Be very frank. I think that the vice president is coming on a damage control mission because defunding hospitals and nursing homes to cut taxes for the wealthiest people in the country is not popular here in Georgia.
Vance had the audacity to try to kick working families into buying his awful rebrand of the bill while visiting a state where nearly 652,000 people stand to lose their health care as a result of this legislation. His little budget bill rebrand rally yesterday was full of sad and cruel irony. Let's listen.
So our policy is very simple. Whether you're in a big city or a small town, we're going to fight for your access to health care.
It is a bold-faced lie that this administration is trying to protect Americans' health care and keep rural hospitals from closing. Just days ago in Georgia, the very state that Vance was visiting, a rural hospital announced it may have to close its ICU because of funding cuts in Trump's budget bill. Lie number one. And in a desperate attempt to rebrand this bill, Vance also referred to it as a working families tax cut, even though the people who will stand to benefit from this bill the most are the richest people in America, while working families suffer by losing income, healthcare, and food assistance. When confronted about this data at that rally, which comes from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, Vance had this to say.
With Atlanta News First, I know you're here to talk about business and manufacturing. I wanted to ask you about the spending bill's impact on individuals. There was a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report that came out last week showing that the bottom 10%, the poorest Americans, would lose about $1,200 a year on their income, while the top 10%, they would add about $13,000 annually to their income. Can you justify for those poorest Americans those differences?
Well, first of all, the Congressional Budget Office, sometimes they put out reports that are absolutely atrocious, and I think this is a good example of a very atrocious report.
Lie number two. Trump's own 2026 budget proposal acknowledged CBO was a nonpartisan and objective organization. I could go on, but the bottom line is that this mess of a rally is par for the course for this administration, which is desperately trying to sell this mess of a bill to people who know their lives will be harder because of it. Seriously, this is the best Republicans can do. They know this bill is bad, and they have no shame. Even Steve Bannon is calling out Republicans for doing a bad job of selling Trump's signature piece of legislation. Of course, Steve, it's because there's nothing good in it to sell people on. Let's watch.
I haven't seen a massive effort to sell the big, beautiful bill and actually what it stands for.
And let's not forget that this month is the first time that members of Congress have had to face their constituents since voting to pass this disaster of a bill. It's recess. And let's just say it's not going well.
An angry crowd drowns out Northern California Congressman Doug LaMalfa in his deep red district, holding 2 town halls on Monday. An attempt to talk about President Trump's massive spending bill draws a strong reaction from the audience.
There's $50 billion in to help our local hospitals. You know, our hospitals have a difficult time. Is this how you get stuff? Is by yelling? Is that how you get stuff?
So to recap, JD Vance is taking time off from taking time off to rebrand this disaster of a bill while Republicans are getting yelled and booed for it at home. And Trump is doing whatever this is.
Very good at grass because I have a lot of golf courses all over the place. I know more about grass than any human being, I think, anywhere in the world.
But Democrats haven't stopped fighting to protect democracy, fighting to protect voting rights, fighting to lower costs, keep our communities safe, and fight back against whatever Trump and his minions throw at us and working people. Don't forget that if you want to be in this fight, you can go to democrats.org/takeaction to find a way to get involved. Thanks for joining us today for this episode of the Daily Blueprint. We'll be here right with you every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern on the DNC's YouTube page.